All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Eric Jr. Podcast. Welcome back. We have a jam-packed show for you tonight. A lot of news to get to. I, of course, am Jacob Klein. I'm joined here tonight by Christopher Lynch.
Boom, boom, boom.
We've got a very, very big pod for you tonight.
Yes.
Several big stories to start with.
Across the landscape.
Different sports, different plot lines.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start tonight?
I think we start with the team that is about to enter the playoffs in a very precarious situation, and that's the Philadelphia 76ers. Super up and down. The last 6 games, 3-3. They're playing they're beating bad teams. They're
losing to the good ones.
They're losing to the good ones, but playing them tough. They're also playing the bad teams tough, which is weird. James Harden is struggling, and that's something that we kind of have to mentally prepare for. The hamstring is clearly bothering him. He's clearly lost a step. Whether will come back at one point is a discussion for another pod. But here in the present, like in this moment for this playoff run, he's clearly not 100%, and he's not getting that separation that you're used to seeing, and it's definitely hampering the offense a little bit. His shooting percentage is down across the board. He's only shooting 33% from three. He's shooting 50% from the basket, just 3 feet around the basket as a Sixer. Those numbers courtesy of Derek Bodner as a Sixer, and that's really troubling because if he doesn't have that extra step and that he doesn't have the extra, he's not getting the 3-point shot. Like there isn't much that you're afraid of when he isolates against a big or whatever taller wing. It's really slowing down the offense.
Yeah, and specifically, we're reflecting on these last 6 games. It kind of seems like the takeaway and the consensus is that most of us have come to terms with that reality, that there is kind of no more, rose-colored glasses on. The idea of what James Harden can be. It seems like right now we're in a pretty dark place mentally, about like what he can offer this team this year.
Right.
At the same time, there is always going to be, the card to be played of, he was saving some for the playoffs. And obviously the hamstring is a tricky thing to navigate. But like, why should he be going all out right now? It's not that he hasn't been going all out. It's that the way he's played, the things that he usually does really well without having to blink or think twice, he's not doing well. And the other team does not look scared at all.
Right. And that's the problem. That pick and roll with Joe is better than a lot of people expected, right? Like when Harden is drawing the double team, he's passing to Embiid, and Embiid has more space than he's ever had.
He's rolling so hard.
So well, like picking his moments of like when to stop, when to get the ball, assess, and then attack. Like he is playing as well as you could hope for out of that pick and roll. The problem is teams are going to start to switch that. And these teams like Toronto, these teams like Milwaukee, they have the bodies that they can guard, Embiid. Obviously, they're going to double him if he gets a switch, but like they're going to double hard and fast, and they're going to force him to move the ball. And if Harden keeps it, he's right now struggling to get by even
Laurie Markkanens of the world.
Exactly. Like that's frustrating, and that's going to be something that they have to navigate because that's absolutely what the game plan is going to be. For these teams.
Right. And it's tough to always have the balance of look at what you're currently, is on the screen and they're bad teams or whatever. Yeah. And then remember that the switchers are going to be guys like Bam Adebayo and Drew Holiday and Kevin Durant. And these guys that are going to be so locked in and know exactly what to do to minimize, what our bread and butter needs to be. So the last 6 games, my general reaction is I've come to peace. Yeah. I have a pretty low bar right now. I recognize that James Harden's passing and his facilitating, obviously his assist numbers have remained high.
Still excellent. Still really important.
That is bona fide. You can bank on it. Yeah. There are going to be some easy buckets generated because of this guy.
The amount of buckets that Embiid is getting that he doesn't even have to think about, he doesn't have to work for.
Quick buckets.
Has really skyrocketed.
It's been eye-opening.
Yeah.
And we have very rarely seen easy buckets generated for him.
Yeah.
And everything else is a question mark. The passing is going to be there, but everything else, the step back three, the finishing at the rim, the floater versus the mid-range shot, the indecision when he beats his man and doesn't know what to, all of that is up in the air. And if this is going to be the last regular season pod of the year, well, it's been a hell of a journey and a hell of a battle. I'd go into battle with you anytime, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so much to worry about with him. And then when you kind of branch out to the other guys on the team, you see Maxey is kind of settling in. He's right now on fire from three. It's unbelievable.
Unprecedented and unsustainable.
Surely. I've been saying that since the start of the year, and he's sustained it the entire year. He's going to end up shooting over 40% from three.
That's on how many attempts? It's preposterous.
Yes, yeah, it is preposterous. It's ridiculous. He was shot 31% from three last year. He's increased it just exponentially. It's unbelievable. He's great. Tobias Harris, after a rough go of it, a rough 10 days after the James Harden trade, I think he's found his footing.
Averaging about 1.4 more threes a game with James Harden on the team. We call that progress, as Andrew Unberger says.
He is, and he's firing them up quick, and he's hitting a pretty decent percentage of them.
But he's taking them quick.
Exactly. That's the most important part. He's taking them. And, you got, last year, Tobias was a major question mark for the season. And with all the question marks the Sixers currently have, you kind of feel comfort from Tobias, you know what you're going to get.
He's a weird constant.
Yes.
And that he will be frustrating, but he'll also do the things that make you go, all right, well, it shrugs your shoulders and you say, all right.
Yeah, if he's taking these shots and he's hitting a fair percentage of them, he's going to be a big boost in the playoffs.
Maybe, he's been a percentage guy in the past. Maybe that's why he won his 50-40-90 last year or whatever. Maybe if he sees he's shooting better on threes than he is on twos, maybe that's what it takes.
I mean, that's the hope. And then, we round it out with the big man, Joel Embiid. What he's doing this year is incredible, unprecedented. Right now, going for the scoring title, he has the lead right now. If he were to do so, he would be the first center to lead the league in scoring since Shaquille O'Neal. He'd be the first center to average 30 points since the NBA-ABA merger.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, this is unprecedented stuff in the three-point era that this guy's doing. And unfortunately, it's kind of getting brushed aside because this one dude passes cool.
And is also playing well. No one's saying he's not.
Yeah.
But what this guy is doing is more special and it's more significant.
Yes.
Those are the words I would use. It's more special because of his ascension as, to the player that he is. And it means more. It's more significant.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's what should matter.
Yeah.
And if he wins the scoring title, look, I don't want to blow this out of proportion. I think you think it's a little bit more important than I do. We don't know the scoring title champions from 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
No.
But when it's someone like Joel Embiid that would be the first in his position to do it, it's historic. Well, since Shaq, it's historically significant for the league.
I would say so. This is a legitimate career achievement. It's going to be on his resume for the rest of time. Joel Embiid, he's amazing. But of course, as amazing as he is being dragged down by his backup right now, DeAndre Jordan, and Doc Rivers, who continues to play DeAndre Jordan despite the overwhelming amount of evidence that it's a disaster. It's a complete disaster at backup center. And none of this is new. We're in the Groundhog Day stage of the season where it's just how is this still happening? How do we still not have a backup center?
These two are officially a couple.
Yes.
And they cannot be untangled from one another.
No, they can't.
And I will be honest. I think most of us agree on him not playing any of the backup bigs that are young, that are under the age of 30, is malpractice from a coaching perspective. To not have even given them minutes at all during the last 6 to 8 game stretch is absolutely inexcusable. However, right now, sitting next to you right now, I am contemplating zigging when everybody else is zagging, and possibly in my mind, maybe crafting a take that goes something along the lines of, exactly what you're going to have from the backup center position, albeit flawed and incredibly frustrating, but you know what you have.
Well, and that's the point. You know what you have. And
it's not good enough.
It's gonna happen. No, but he's the guy. There is no alternative. You can't pull Charles Bassey out of the G League right now and expect him to come in and play this super specific role that he has not played at all.
I don't know.
You can't do it. No, it's DeAndre
right,
Jordan.
He could have if he had
right.
3 or 4 games, with 10 to 12 minutes this past 2 weeks. Maybe.
Potentially.
Maybe. But now that possibility's gone.
Yeah, DeAndre Jordan is the guy. Him and Doc Rivers are going down with the ship.
Yep.
Doc Rivers loves his guys, man. He fucking I do have to say that every report that we hear is DeAndre Jordan is just the best. He's just the greatest guy.
Here's the thing.
Everybody freaking loves that guy.
Harden loves him.
Yes.
That seems to matter.
All the Sixers love him. Every single one of them.
I mean, that's good to have.
Yeah.
I gotta say, the camaraderie and the rapport is good, and also just I don't know, it's bullshit, but the veteran presence, a guy who has come close to actually doing something significant in the league and almost winning with the Clippers at one point. He does bring something. Yeah. I won't say anything more than experience, but experience has value, or at least it's supposed to.
Yeah, it can have value. If you're not getting
absolutely
exposed every other game, and that's partially on Doc. He's got to get the rotations down a little bit. But okay, so we've talked about DeAndre Jordan, we've talked about Doc Rivers, the frustrations there that we just have to live with, right? That's just the reality of the situation. We do have some somewhat breaking news that we do have to just mention. It has been reported that Matisse Thybulle will be ineligible to play on Thursday in Toronto because he's unvaccinated. And Toronto and Canada have a guideline that no players can play when they're unvaccinated. They're not allowed to enter the country. So that's a major story if, as the current standings are, the Sixers play the Toronto in the first round matchup. Not having Matisse Thybulle is going to be a massive blow. And just to have the news break this way is kind of just shocking to the core. Yeah, I don't have any other words than that. That's just kind of I'm still processing it. We literally got on. It happened a couple minutes ago, right before we got on, and we do have to mention it. But I don't know what that means for the Sixers or Matisse or anything.
It's certainly surprising, and what really my only comment about the matter would be that this is going to be a factor for whoever gets matched up with Toronto.
Yeah.
Because it does seem, for the most part, there are 1 to 2 to 3 guys on a lot of these teams. If it's Brooklyn, obviously that would be an interesting wrinkle. I don't know about Miami, Boston, whoever else. But it's notable.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not something we were expecting.
No.
If we're talking about players on the team, if this were to be a situation involving one of them, Matisse is certainly one of the guys I would have hand selected as not being one if I had my druthers. But this is a situation that we face, and we still have a couple games to let the standings, let the chips fall where they may, if you will. So we're going to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's a surprising, shocking news to drop on us, but we're going to see what happens, and if this becomes a more major talking point, it could not, but
and we would certainly revisit it in that scenario.
Yeah.
Before we move off of these Philadelphia 76ers, most likely we're not going to speak on mic until after the regular season has concluded.
Yeah.
Do you have any Joel Embiid MVP takes, statistics, emotional confessions?
Yeah, how about we just kind of make our case to all the NBA voters that are listening right now?
Mm-hmm.
There are a plethora of them, of course.
There's several.
Just that you should take into account not just the stats, not just the eye test, not just all the emotional work that Joel Embiid has put in this season dealing with the Ben Simmons situation cannot be overlooked. You've said this. You've championed this take. It has to go said that, Embiid carrying the team in the early part of the season has made the Sixers an attractable enough position to land James Harden. James Harden doesn't come to the Sixers if they're 10 games under 500.
Or even right around 500.
Exactly. If they're not a top 3 seed in the East, there is no James Harden trade. There is no potential championship. And we can we can split hairs about how likely that is or isn't. But it is a real possibility because Joel Embiid kept this team together and carried it through single-handedly the first half of the season when Tobias was doing whatever he was, and Maxey was still so young, and he hadn't broken out yet. Like those games when it was really Embiid by himself, they shouldn't be overstated.
Yeah, and this is where I've been for a little while now.
Yeah.
You can say it's more abstract, it's more on the macro level, but historically,
Mhm.
for the nature of what he dealt with, and
Yeah.
also his actual numbers and performance, both of those things, it is the justifiable decision to give him the award that acknowledges that.
Yeah.
And I'm getting really upset. I know we're almost at the end. It's literally almost over.
Yeah.
But it's been really tough the past couple of weeks trying to consume NBA media in general and content and getting constantly frustrated. And now we just have to see what the votes are.
Yeah, watching him go from prohibitive favorite to, 50-50, and now the odds say that he's a pretty significant underdog.
I think it's a coin flip. I really do, and I think the next couple games are going to determine a lot. And if he plays in all 3 games, it's going to determine a lot. And I don't think a lot of people have their minds made up. I truthfully don't. On April 6, 2022, I don't believe a lot of them have their decision already made.
That's interesting. The amount of those people out there is going to be fascinating because we've seen in the swing votes that ESPN conducted massive jumps in the last 3 times. And that goes to show that no one is really firmly. You have your, Keith Pompeys and people of his ilk who have kind of decided they're camped in. Keith is an Embiid guy, of course. But those guys that are kind of in the middle, the independent voters, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to decide this, and it'll be interesting to see what happens at the end of the year. How big standings play, because the East being so jumbled, it's going to be one game separates 1 to 4 basically. Yep.
It really shouldn't have that much bearing.
It shouldn't, but we can see that it might. And then, of course, the scoring title, which is completely up for grabs.
It's a factor.
All this is a factor, which is to say that we have no idea what's going to happen.
And just, again, I want to reiterate your point, which I thought you made really well, which is the trajectory of this team was directly affected by his play, not just for the short term, but for their long-term viability as a championship contender by acquiring James Harden and being able to finesse and parlay the Ben Simmons situation into that solely on the shoulders of his play and performance. We need to beat the drum on that every opportunity that we can, because that is not something that really ever happens. A player doing so well that it convinces another colleague to join him in a weird trade deadline scenario that involves all-stars that disgruntled, and it just doesn't happen. That's such a unique storyline, and he's done everything. He's done everything you could have asked him. There's been so much potential, so much hypothetical possibility with this guy, and he's done everything, and it has been personified and manifested this year, and he needs to get the acknowledgement.
I agree. This season by him needs to
be acknowledged.
Metaphorically hang in the rafters of the NBA history. This is a special thing that he's done this year, and if it goes unrecognized by the greater mass, if he gets second team All NBA is the best thing he gets, that's a miscarriage of justice.
It's disgraceful.
Yeah.
It's disgraceful is what it is.
Agreed 110%. To close out, I do want to talk about the scoring title because that is the most fascinating part of this.
This is all you, man. Let's hear it.
I love this. Right now, Embiid is averaging 30.4242 points per game. LeBron James, 30.2679. Now, LeBron James has only played 56 games. In order to be eligible for the scoring title, you need to play in 70% of the available games. 58 games. He needs to play 2 of his last 3 games in order to qualify for the award. Now, Joel Embiid, after that 45 piece that he just hung on the Pacers 14th man.
Shout out DeAndre Jordan for that flagrant foul.
Yes, getting him back in there.
Getting Joe back in the game, man. That could be big.
That could be big. Actually, every point is going to matter in this. I've run the numbers. If LeBron James decides that he wants the scoring title, and by every indication, he wants the scoring title. He wants another one. He wants to try to salvage this season. At 36 years old, he wants to win the scoring title. If he balls out, if he goes for 50, in this Golden State game or against the tanking Thunder, like Embiid's gonna have to match him step for step.
Oh,
He's gonna the margin is so thin that Embiid basically has to match whatever LeBron does over 2 games, and that's why if all you cared about was the scoring title, the only logical course of action would be to sit Embiid for the Toronto game.
Oh my God, coming out hot with this take using the data.
I mean, it is a per game statistic. If Embiid goes up Toronto and they double, triple, quadruple team him, send all those guys with all that wingspan at him, all that length at him at the same time, and he just plays a pretty good game.
18 and 12.
Yeah, if he gets that, it's over. He lost. He lost the scoring title. It's over. There's no way he can match whatever LeBron does.
This is a scorching hot take, man. This is crazy.
Now, the last 2 games for the Sixers, also against the weak-ass Pacers and the tanking Detroit Pistons.
Do I hear 50 piece?
I mean, that is legitimate possibility. Like, Embiid going out those 2 games and yo, none of this messing around. Give me the ball. Give me the ball.
He's Doc, you've been playing me 40 minutes anyway. I'm getting this.
I'm not kidding. 45 shots. Embiid, 45 shots.
Right before the playoffs, you really think you're firmly camped out in this space.
This matters. This matters to me that he wins the score.
Very seriously.
It does. I think it matters to Embiid as well. I wonder if it matters to this extent, if he's going to sit out the Toronto game. If he plays in Toronto game, even if he gets 25, that's still a massive, massive detriment.
We don't know what LeBron for sure is going to do yet. They just got eliminated.
They did just get eliminated. Everything I feel,
everything you believe,
everything I believe is that he's going to go out these last 2 games and he is going to drop 60.
Oh my God.
Or die trying.
You don't think that the blatant, attempt by him to do that in such a disappointing and meaningless fucking portion of his career solely for the purpose of doing that? Don't you think that's a worse look?
No.
To purely gun for it when everybody's going to clown him because his team just got eliminated? I don't know.
So I hear you, but 36 years old winning a scoring title. That has a pretty good ring to it.
Does it sound as good as the center doing it since the first time?
I'm saying I want Embiid. You know what I mean? If there's
both of those reasons are actually pretty damn compelling reasons.
Exactly, which is why these guys are going to fight tooth and nail. The last game,
this Warriors game for LeBron, that's the one. If he only drops 30, then it's probably Embiid's to lose.
Yes,
but that Warriors game is what it's going to come down to.
Yes, and they have the tanking Thunder, and then the last game of the season they have against your boy Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets, who give up 150 points a game, and nobody fucking bats an eye because Jokic has 13 assists. Whatever. They play this crazy pace that is they give up so many points. Whatever. We're not.
Hey, did you look at the advanced numbers, my man? Have you fucking look at the advanced numbers?
You have to look at the blorp. It's fucking crazy. It's off the charts.
Look, you really crunched the numbers here, and I respect it. Yeah. And the Toronto game and the Golden State Lakers game, those are going to be the games to watch for this.
Yes.
And we're going to see where the chips fall, man.
If I was in Embiid's ear, I would say sit the Toronto game. Because you also have the added bonus of not giving Toronto tape in their,
They haven't played against us with James Harden yet?
Maybe
once.
We played against a shorthanded Raptors team. They actually beat us.
Whatever.
In a pretty disappointing game about 2 weeks ago. But
block that out of my memory.
We have not seen they have not played us at full strength, so we don't know what the matchups would be. If Matisse Thybulle's not going to play, maybe you just send everybody.
Sure.
Keep everybody home.
I never showing Nick Nurse in that organization
that's what we
can really do.
Exactly.
So that does add a little bit to the argument of
we've done some gamemanship with the Heat. Like I said earlier, that Toronto is who we are matched up with right now in the 4-5 matchup. Obviously, there's so much that could change, but I think Toronto's pretty set in that 5 seed. I don't see them losing, they'd have to lose 2 games, I think, for the Bulls to catch them, and then the Bulls are just a disaster right now. The 3 seed is where you want to be, if we're being honest. You want to match up against the Bulls without Lonzo Ball, who are like, somebody said this, like they haven't beaten a top 4 seed in 4 months.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I saw that. But
that is insane.
Doesn't that make the argument that you gotta beat Toronto so you get that game up, so you have a real chance at the 3? I mean, come on, isn't that more significant than the scoring title in the long run? Isn't that first round matchup more significant? I think it is.
Potentially.
Look, I've talked about this team enough. We've got a lot to get to. Do you have anything else to say about the Sixers, Joel Embiid, anybody?
I think we've done it ad nauseum. Let's move on to a kind of a fresher team, a team that kind of is just like in the springtime of their season, as opposed to the entering the winter. That's the Philadelphia Phillies, whose season kicks off on Friday at Citizens Bank Park. I'm going to be there. It's going to be awesome. I'm really excited about this team. If you had asked me 2 months ago, did I care how much I cared about the Phillies season, I probably would have answered like -2. Like the Phillies right now, they're mashing in spring trading. They signed, these 2 guys, Schwarber and Castellanos, and they got me excited. They got me hooked. I'm back in. What can I say?
I'm a sucker. That's pretty surprising to hear from you.
Yeah.
And honestly, their spring training vibes have jumped off the Bleacher Report page. I got to be honest. Like, looking at the scores, looking at, the rookies hitting, looking at just like all the positive, looking at Ranger Suarez and, it's been all positive. So we're due for a letdown to start the year. The Phillies are 22-1 to win it all.
That seems pretty good.
Sounds about right?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good to me.
I mean, if they come out hanging some crooked numbers on some teams and they just come out hot.
Yes.
Which, they've kind of done in the past, but this year it would just feel different. And watching this team, you want to talk about baseball, the dying sport. It's like the Latin of sports, man. No one's, actively pursuing it. It's only the old heads. You want to talk about a team that could change that by putting up some entertaining scores? This is your team, man. This is going to be a Philly team through and through. We're going to constantly be blowing leads and then getting back in the lead. Yes. It's going to be so entertaining and so much fun to talk about and frustrating to talk about and everything that we love about our Philly teams. But, man, I am pretty excited. I did put down some wagers. I'm feeling pretty frisky when it comes to this Phillies team.
Yes.
Where's your head at? Just with, you can go in any direction you want.
Okay.
What are you thinking about first and foremost when you think about this Phillies team this year?
I'm thinking about these 3 guys in the middle of the lineup that we have. Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, and Nick Castellanos. In whatever order they end up being, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, like whatever order they decide. Like those guys can get on base, they can hit home runs, and they can score. None of this like Bryce Harper only having like 90 RBIs anymore. That's not happening anymore. Guys are going to be on base when he hits home runs now. Like, that's what I'm excited for. He had like 17 solo home runs last year, man. Are you kidding me?
Jesus.
Like, that's like having, and then not only having somebody behind him too, like protection in the lineup where he's got to get some pitches to hit, man. Like, that's the most, it's the lineup, but also the pitching staff looks pretty good, feels pretty good. Wheeler should have won the Cy Young Award last year. I'll die on that hill. Aaron Nola, bounce back year coming up.
Oh boy, it's gonna need to be.
Yeah. Eflin looks good in spring training. You talked about Ranger Suarez already, man. Like,
don't forget about my boy Kyle Gibson.
What are we talking about
Tall
here,
boy here, number 5. He's gonna be the new wave Joe Blanton, dog.
What's up? What are we talking about? Like, come on now.
We got enough. We can get through 6 innings most nights.
Who cares about fielding?
Fielding
is the least interesting part of baseball.
There's no more shift, man.
Yeah.
We're just cranking out hits, dog. Like, it's a wrap already, man. Like we are the most entertaining, mashing, in your face fucking rock stars, dude. We're gonna make baseball cool again.
Yes. And that's the goal, and that's the dream, and that's the vibe. All those things. I feel good about this team right now.
Speaking of vibes, can I talk to you about some financial bets that have been placed to go directly from these vibes?
Hit me with the odds and then tell me what you're doing.
So just like the worst time to put money down on a team is when all the positive news is coming out in the totally meaningless part of their season or of their journey. So like right now, prime time to bet on these Phillies. It's all positivity and potential. All right, so the Phillies to win it all, 22-1. We both said that
seems
sounds
like
about
good money, man.
sounds
like good
about
money.
right. This is the type of team where those odds are gonna plummet. When the year starts, because they are gonna be featured prominently because of the double-digit run totals that they're producing.
Mm-hmm.
That's good value right there.
I think so too. If they start out hot, if the bats, which have like seriously shown up in spring training, like I feel like this is the first spring training we've had in like a decade where the guys actually like produced.
Yep,
right. Like,
that's a great point.
People aren't hitting 125, and you're like, man, they gotta get out of this slump. Like, no, the opposite. If they can continue this for 3 weeks, those odds are plummeting.
Yep,
right.
Totally agree. Now this next bet, I think this is just guaranteed money, man.
Easy money. He says it's a lot.
This quite literally is a lot. Phillies over under at 85.5.
If they don't win 86 games, like Jake Klein is gonna streak through the streets of Philadelphia because it is a lock. You're saying
it is an absolute lock.
Yeah.
And both of those things being true. And look, 85.5. What the fuck are we doing?
What are we doing?
We can still blow plenty of leads and hit that. We can still not make the playoffs and hit that. Like, come on. What are you doing here? That's
85. You gotta get to 86 wins.
Minus 110 to get that. It just seems like, all right, you don't even have to put down that much to clear a pretty penny. So we totally agree on that as well. Okay, now this is where things start to get interesting. One of the emergent plot lines from spring training has been the performance of not one, but two Philadelphia Philly rookies that are out there producing and just getting everybody who is even remotely interested in this team
excited, absolutely,
with visions of grandeur.
Yes.
Okay, let's start with Bryson Stott.
Yeah.
Put $3 down on him.
Crown jewel of the Phillies farm system.
That's right. The one man who was never traded away when he shouldn't have been for a guy that was not nearly as good as he has the potential to be.
Right.
And he has been producing and he is ready to rock. $3 on him at 10-1 for your NL Rookie of the Year. Your thoughts?
I mean, that's pretty good odds right there. Like if he's an everyday ball player, like there's a good.
Oh, you think those are good odds?
Yeah.
You think those are solid odds?
I think they're solid.
Okay, well, wait till I tell you what I got on Mickey Maniac.
Oh, boy.
Mickey Moniac, I'm sorry. Mickey Moniac, okay? Mickey Sticks, all right? Now, this kid...
Mickey Maniac is just... We should just call him that.
I think that's what we might do moving forward.
We might have to. We might just have to do it.
This kid, he has double home run games. He's fixed his swing.
Yeah.
He was a bona fide bust already. Here he is back from the dead. Mickey Moniac, I mean, we got him at 55-1 for your NL Rookie of the Year. And I know it might sound crazy. I know, it's never going to happen. But hey, only put down $1. Clear a pretty penny.
Yes.
All right, Mickey Moniac. I need you to put your foot in the ground today on Mickey Moniac's career as a Philly. I need to know right now what is he going to be.
If he can just keep Odubel out of the lineup, that is just like exceeds my expectations. Like, from like 2 months ago, again, like I was like, is that guy even gonna make the team? Like, are we not cutting him yet? Like him coming in and like fixing the swing, which we've never had anybody fix anything in Philadelphia. People have broken things in Philadelphia. No one's ever had something fixed in Philadelphia. Like,
amazing take.
If he is the guy who has his swing fixed and he's just like a regular, normal MLB center fielder, I mean, the sky's the limit for this fucking team, man. Like, that's the one thing we were missing.
Such a good point. Nothing ever goes the opposite way here. It always goes wrong. It never goes right. And he was dead in the water, dead on arrival, this guy.
Yes.
That draft, it was a total, of the top 10 guys, literally none of them could amount to anything. And here we have the number one pick, possibly ready to make a little bit of noise.
Yes.
All right, if he's going to get the opportunity to do so, that's a different question.
Yeah,
big year for Joe Girardi.
They're going to give him every opportunity to win this job, I think, because... What are the other options?
It's just Odubel. It's the only bona fide MLB caliber player.
We saw last year how many in the first month. It was Hazley, and then it was they even brought up Moniak when he was bad.
Yep.
When Moniak was bad, they even brought him up.
Yeah.
That's how desperate we are for center field.
Maybe he got some of those jitters out, last year when nothing meant nothing, and now he's ready to rock.
Let's hope so. I mean,
Hope this Fowler hopes so.
I'm all aboard the McMoniak train. I am ready for this guy to who doesn't love a redemption story, man?
Dude,
who doesn't love it?
Classic Philly, man. Classic Philly. All right, last bet. You felt pretty strongly. You mentioned this guy's name, Zach Wheeler.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably a bit smitten that he didn't get, properly recognized last year.
I would be upset. He should have won. He should have won Cy Young.
And granted, I would have rather Bryce won the MVP instead of that, but we got Zach Wheeler here. Most wins for the National League. A weird bet.
That is a weird bet.
I was going to go strikeouts or something. Not really good odds on a lot of other stuff. So
he was quite good at striking out last year. So
yeah, you're right. But we got 10-1 here on most wins. You got to think with this lineup, he's going to be winning most of the time.
And the other thing with wins is he's going to be pitching deep into these games.
Exactly.
What he did last year. He's going to be in these games enough to us to get a lead.
And if you have a 3 or 4 run cushion instead of a 1 or 2 run cushion, you can afford to give up a couple runs at the end of the game and still come out with the W.
Yes, which he couldn't do last year, which is why his win total was not
exactly
super high.
Precisely.
But I like that as an outside the box Zach Wheeler bet.
Had to get him involved.
I had to, yeah. I mean, he's great.
Now that about does it for the betting segment of tonight's podcast. But there are certainly a couple other individuals or maybe some takes that you have. If you want to talk a little bit about Bryce Harper, if you want to talk a little bit about Joe Girardi, I'm again opening up the floor to you. What Philly stuff you
big year for Joe Girardi. I mean, I think a lot of people last year didn't end very well. It did not. There's no two ways about it. We can talk about the team not going over the luxury tax last year, and that really hamstringed them. They have done that this year. All right, no more excuses, Joe. This is it. You got to win, man. You got to win. That's all you got to do.
You got no excuses this year.
That's what I'm saying.
That's for sure. And I mean, it certainly did end poorly last year. I mean,
it ended really poorly. We kind of wrote them off because the Eagles were starting and the Sixers were around the corner.
Yep.
That's kind of what we do at the end of baseball seasons when we're not in the playoffs. But it got ugly there at the end.
And the second half into the end, it was a steady decline this year. And
steady, predictable decline.
They got to get out to a good start to start the year, stack a couple series wins, get off to start off with a good note, so that way they can navigate a possible setback of an injury or a cold streak or whatever it might be.
Exactly.
One quick thing I got to say, look, Kyle Schwarber, is there not a better last name to be abbreviated as a nickname than Schwarb? Schwarb?
Probably not.
Schwarb is top tier.
What about Schwarbs? Is that the same?
Schwarb with the B.
You think the B is
Schwarb.
important?
I think it's important to enunciate the B at the end. Schwarb. That's Schwarb.
Schwarbs.
Schwarb.
Schwarbs?
I think Schwarb is where we want to put our foot in the ground as quality nickname for last name.
Yeah.
They're testing it out. Yeah. And they'll probably get back
in
to
the
us.
Streets, yeah.
They'll get back to us with some feedback. But I just had to throw that out there. These guys, Harper, Schwarb, and Castellanos, these guys are gonna mash.
Which is the last one's a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah. Exactly. So we're gonna workshop some nicknames for Nick.
Yeah.
But for now, we've got Schwarb, we've got Harp. All right, MV3.
Harp and Schwarb.
Harp and Schwarb. So we're cooking with gas now. I'm really excited for those Philadelphia Phillies, and you're gonna be there for the opener. Yes, so let's hope that they show out, right away.
If they score under 6 runs, I will be devastated. I will be personally just beside myself.
Gotta get out there and start mashing, man. That's what it's all about.
If they don't hit any home runs in the first inning, I'm walking out.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm ripping off my memorabilia.
You're gonna get your free shirt and leave it on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that about wraps up our excitement for the Phillies.
Yes.
Obviously we'll, be back with intermittent updates on the season, but there's one other team that we haven't talked about.
Look, we're going to build on that excitement with a trade that really just seems to have broad consensus of approval.
Yeah.
A trade involving the Philadelphia Eagles and the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
Hopefully you know the details if you don't already. We essentially swapped out one of our firsts for next year. And in the process gained a second and a third, if I understand correctly, along with some, late round swapping. Is that the extent of it, essentially?
That's correct.
Okay, so we pick up an extra second and a third, and we get a first. And unlike the NBA, no protections, no bullshit, man. We got your pick, and that's it, man. So we can just root against you without any worry.
Hell yeah.
And I would say that to swap out the first, which is what you wanted to do anyway, not possibly if in some of the parallel realities we actually hit on all 3 picks. The idea of having to worry about paying them later on, and the idea of having to hit on 3 guys in a draft where you're in a kind of an awkward position. The goal all along was hopefully to, add some additional draft capital in future years. He was able to do that earlier before the draft than maybe we were all expecting.
Yeah. I mean, if we're thinking about it, the Miami trade back last year
about the same time,
about a similar time. So clearly, this is a time where Howie feels, that the iron is hot,
and
right? Like this
ground is fertile.
That this is teams are like talking themselves into players right now, and like you can kind of work that. And clearly, he was able to work some magic here.
But strangely, I get the feeling that it was the Saints who were initiating these conversations.
Could be.
So that's an unusual. It's usually Howie's the one reaching out and starting, the negotiations from a very far distance away. But I got to say, feel pretty good about the trade. Love getting an extra second for a future year. What, 2024 though?
2024.
So it's a little far away. And then did they get the extra third this year?
I believe so.
Okay, so still the top. They got
but
5
they gave
picks.
away their 5th this year, I think. So
okay,
like,
so still
they have the same amount of picks this year, or
5 in the top 101. That's where you're gonna hopefully hit on. You go 60% there with real blue chip players.
That feels pretty good to me.
It's pretty solid.
Yeah.
And I would just want to say that having a team's first is great, and having a totally unstable possible record for that team is even better.
Yeah.
As of right now.
Also, fuck the Saints.
Fuck the Saints.
We hate them.
And we've kind of
It's so nice to root against them. To have reasons to root against them. That's awesome.
For sure. I mean, I never really fucked with the Saints. Not gonna lie. But to have a team that's it's totally unpredictable.
Yeah.
Where the trajectory. Now, granted,
absolutely,
we haven't seen what they're gonna do with the extra picks, with the ammo that they have this year, and with the roster. All the
could sign Tyrann Mathieu tomorrow. And
sure. And they can probably, even if they're bad, get to 7 or 8, 9 wins. Probably. Just through competency.
But maybe.
But looking at the back half of their schedule, depending on how it goes, one Jameis Winston injury, you're looking at maybe a 9 or 10 overall pick next year, and we have no idea what the future holds.
That would be quite nice.
But to have that in your back pocket, it's just nice, man. It's nice to stack those additional assets, in perpetuity.
For sure. Definitely opens up the door for a potential quarterback trade next year. There were a lot of talk this year. The Eagles were clearly involved in some, rumors. How much so is depending on who you're talking to, but that's not going away anytime soon. Jalen Hurts still going to be on the hot seat this year. He's got to perform. It's his job to lose, but if he doesn't grab it, grab that ring, Howie's going to be quick to move off him. He's done that in the past. So that's just a fire to light under Jalen Hurts, and it gives the Eagles, just more flexibility in the future. Whatever happens, if Hurts is great and we can use those picks to build around him, great. If not, okay, we can use those picks to do a little maneuver.
Trade position, yeah.
Trade position.
The one thing I will say, since you mentioned Jalen Hurts, is his first 2 years will be so unique, and that each is going to present an opportunity, and different variations of the performance required to, extend your trust as being, in charge at the quarterback position for another year. Mm-hmm. His first year, he did enough to get himself to where he is now. That same level of play will not be good enough this year.
No.
And it's just a unique dynamic. You also mentioned Howie possibly wheeling and dealing, being quick to move off him. Look, good general managers, good leadership positions in these sports organizations, they usually try to identify when assets have high value.
Yeah.
Right now, Jalen Hurts has got some pretty damn high value, if you ask me.
Yeah, if you look around the league at some of the positions, who have their quarterback, you would say Jalen Hurts a pretty decent guy to have.
And I would just think that if he goes out there and doesn't have the best year and maybe regresses a little bit, as we've seen with Philadelphia athletes, then it's going to, even if you have, let's say it's another mid-round first, additionally from the Saints, and your pick is around that same, then you're looking at next year with an uncertain quarterback situation into mid-first,
Right, exactly.
It's still not necessarily a clear path there either. So let's just remain level-headed when it seems, and this is from our process days, those Sam Hinkie trades spoiled us in a way to always, bet on being able to cash in on those things that you acquired, these assets.
Famously not cashing in on any of them.
Except for the one that mattered the most
Yeah.
in Joel Embiid and hitting on that. It wasn't even an asset acquired outside of just losing blatantly and just embarrassingly. So overall, pretty broad consensus.
Yeah,
that this
everyone liked it. We had 3 first-round picks. That's just a logistically kind of a nightmare to have to vet and scout 3 players
all in the same section
area.
of the draft. Yeah.
The idea that we would fall in love with 3 guys in that section, pretty unreasonable.
Made me nervous, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
If we couldn't get someone to deal on draft night, my confidence in hitting on 1 out of those 3 is probably around 33%.
Right, exactly. So you move off one of them, you get to the draft next year, which could be, a slightly better one. You hope at least. And, you can really focus on 15 and 18, those guys. And then also you still have I'm going to move up and down. What does this trade do to the idea of moving up to grab a stud that falls out of the top 10?
I weirdly feel like, and again, I've been zagging this whole pod, weirdly feel like this is more a reason to go trade up.
Yeah.
I weirdly feel like they're still sitting at 15. 2 quarterbacks get taken in the top 10. You're looking at maybe a legitimate cornerstone cornerback or safety possibly being there at 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
And that's not that much to trade up. I don't want to, pretend like it's not going to be significant, but if we're talking a second and a third, and you're holding on to that other first, and now you've just traded up and got a bona fide stud, and you still have that other first round pick that maybe you can parlay. I mean, I think this kind of increases the likelihood that they do move up, even a couple spots, if not, into the top 6.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, moving up that far, the cost is going to be prohibitive. Now, this isn't a quarterback draft. We saw last year, the cost to move up from 12 to 6 was a first-round pick. I don't know if it's going to be the same that way because the quarterbacks are not as valuable, right? And this is kind of a more defensive-oriented draft. Our team's going to be as willing to move, to pay the price to move up is going to be interesting to see. Is it just going to be a second and third, or is it going to be a future first?
Was it just a third to get Devontae Smith last year when we jumped the Giants?
So that was just 2 picks, right?
Yeah, I think it was 12 to 10.
Yeah.
And they went up and got Devontae for a third.
I believe it was, yeah.
So that would lead you to believe that, if it's 2 spots, if we're talking about a guy sitting there and that team is just waiting for someone to call in to get something because they're not settled with their board or they're, a Seattle or whoever that's very fluid in their ability to do whatever.
Or a team like the Jets who have multiple picks.
Sure.
And,
are they just waiting on the call if it's within 2 or 3 spots? Now, that's the question.
Yeah.
Will there be a guy 2 or 3 spots within 15 because of quarterbacks being reached for? Yeah. Because of who's the kid from Cincinnati, Ritter?
Yeah.
Or whoever. No one thought Mahomes was going to get traded up for, and voila, there was. So it'll be really interesting to see. We were there for the Mahomes draft, right? That's correct. That was our draft. So I was pretty surprised.
I believe that was right after our pick. That was 15, and we picked.
I thought they traded up to 10. I'm pretty sure.
Derek Barnett?
No. The Chiefs traded up higher to get Mahomes.
I thought he was taking 15.
I remember thinking, God, they gave up a lot to go up and get this guy. I hope he's good. Yeah. And here we have. Hopefully, he continues to show that he's better than Tom Brady with time.
Hopefully.
All right.
We can only hope.
You got anything else?
That seems like a pretty good place to end it. That was pretty comprehensive.
The Sixers are about to enter the playoffs. The Phillies are about to start their season.
Yes.
The Eagles are inching closer to the draft. It's a damn fun time to be talking about sports.
In the springtime is always fun when we're talking about sports, and of course when we're talking about life. Spring is the best.
Great way to end it.
Spring's the best season. Hot take.
Look, I'm not even gonna refute any of that. No rebuttal on this end. All right, let's close this thing out right, respectfully, and whoever's still listening at this point, you'll certainly hear from us again. I can't tell you when, but you will.
All right. Thank you for listening, everybody. You have a good one.